Welcome. Our firm is dedicated to being your expert bridge between Asia and Europe, providing leading cross-border legal services with integrity.
Welcome back to our channel, ladies and gentlemen, and to all the foreign investors tuning in today. I am Brianna, a litigation and M&A attorney based here in Vietnam. Today, we are going to sit down and discuss a groundbreaking development for the foreign investment community, specifically for FDI enterprises looking to enter or expand their footprint in the Vietnamese market. Recently, the regulatory authorities issued official dispatch number 5427 providing detailed guidance on the investment law. While this legislation hasn't made loud headlines in the mainstream media, within the M&A and legal structuring circles, we consider it a strategic untying the knots. It completely transformed how foreign capital flows into Vietnam. Specifically, the biggest change lies in the flexibility now granted to the foreign investors. You now have the right to choose. You can establish the legal entity, meaning obtaining the enterprise registration certificate (EIC) first, and then proceed to apply for the investment registration certificate (IRC) later. At first glance, this might look like a simple reversal of administrative steps. But for those of you who have directly set up an FDI project, you know exactly how massive the pain points this reversal results. Let's break down the details in today's video. The very first issue this new mechanism totally results is a breaking deadlock when you need to lease premises or factory. Previously, under the old procedure, you were required to secure the investment registration certificate (IRC) first, but to grant the IRC, the Department of Planning and Investment demanded the proof of your project location, meaning that you had to submit a factory or land lease agreement. And here is where the trouble began. When you approach an industrial park developer to sign a lease, they will tell you need an enterprise registration certificate (ERC) and a legal company seal to have the legal capacity to sign this contract. The state required the contract to issue the license, but your partner required the license to sign the contract. It was a classic catch-22 that left countless projects stalled for months. Now that the knot has been untied, the law allows you to register your enterprise (EIC) first. You can rapidly set up a legal entity in Vietnam, obtain a corporate company seal, and legitimately represent your foreign capital to sign in principle agreements and official lease contracts. Only after your own civil agreements are secured do you take that dossier to the state authority to apply for your investment license (IRC). Everything becomes infinitely smoother and more logical. The second practical benefit, and this is what chief financial officials care about the most, is the unblocking of the company's lifeblood, the direct investment capital account, the DICA. When deciding to penetrate the Vietnamese market, the parent company overseas usually has a specific budget ready to deploy. However, under the old mechanism, all this money had to hang in limbo abroad, because without a legal entity, Vietnamese commercial banks would not allow you to open the DICA. Without this account, you couldn't legally transfer funds into the country to pay for the office rent, compensate your initial setup team, or place deposits with many machinery suppliers. Allowing the ERC to be issued first completely changes the game. Right after the legal entity is established, you can take your corporate dossier to a commercial bank and open your capital account. The cash flow from the parent company can be injected into Vietnam transparently and smoothly, and you immediately gain the financial resources to sustain your illegal operations and execute foundations tasks, while your lawyers and consultants handle the more complex IRC licensing procedures in the background. Especially in M&A deals where time is the essence, having a ready-made domestic legal entity, an SPV, and an active capital account ready for disbursements is the ultimate weapon to close the deal with your partners. And the third core point we need to recognize is the shift in the state management mindset, moving from the pre-track to the post-track system. When processing ERC application under the new regulation, the Business Registration Authority will no longer require detailed appraisal of the foreign investors' commitments regarding the market access conditions. Instead, the founders of the enterprise must self-declare and bear sole responsibility for the legality and accuracy of the dossier. This allows the administrative procedure to clear incredibly fast. However, from the perspective of a consulting attorney, I must give my clients a stamp reminder. Leniency at the first step does not mean we are allowed to be careless. If you inaccurately declare your business lines according to WTO commitments to our free trade agreements, your enterprise will still get the ERC and begin operating. But later, when you take the step to apply for the IRC, the investment authority will scrutinize everything. If a violation of market access conditions is discovered, your project will be blocked. And all the money poured into the legal entity will become a severe sunk cost. Therefore, even though the procedure is more breathable, having a deeply knowledgeable legal team to accurately structure your business course from the very first stroke of the pen remains an absolute prerequisite to protecting your capital. Finally, I want to share a bit of reality from the trenches of corporate battlefield. Many people read the law and see that the timeline for issuing an ERC is started as only 5 to 7 working days. Please note, the number only counts for the moment. A completely valid dossier is successfully submitted to the system. For foreign investors, the actual process will demand more preparation time. We must account for the time it takes the parent company overseas to prepare corporate documents, undergo consumer legalization, and ship them to Vietnam for certified translation and notarization. This preparation phase requires a tight coordination, and the actual time before you hold the enterprise's registration certificate in your hands will be longer than the theoretical 5 to 7 days. Nevertheless, compared to the stagnation of the old process, this new mechanism is still an incredibly shortcut, offering a massive competitive advantage for well-prepared investors. In summary, the flexibility in ERC and IRC issuance order is not just a reduction in administrative red tape. It is truly a strategic launch pad that allows FDI capital to penetrate Vietnam much more proactively and aggressively. I hope these insights have given you a comprehensive and practical view of this new policy. And if you are planning to set up a project or need a restructuring advice or for upcoming M&A transactions, do not hesitate to reach out to us for close-knit guidance. I am Brianna Litigation. Thank you for watching. Wishing you all investors a highly productive and successful day. See you in the next video. Bye.